Welcome to the Teddy Keaton Show, live on HBCU Game Day. I am Sylvester Williams. They call me Sly the Sports Guy, and I'm joined by the one and only Coach Teddy Keaton from the Clark Atlanta University Panthers. I said Atlanta right this time.
That's right, you said Atlanta. That's what you got to say, Clark Atlanta.
Atlanta. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, man.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you here. Big win. But once again, Clark Atlanta University Panthers are making sure the fans get their money's worth in these games. Close game against Allen University, Coach.
I don't think you draw it up that way, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. You got to go out and you got to play. And I think the guys good and went out and played, and it ended up in a close game. You know, I didn't think nothing differently was going to happen. Allen want to beat me. I want to beat Allen. I mean, it was a showdown for the century.
Well, there you go. I think Dr. French and everybody underneath, they wanted to make sure that the concession stand got all their sales and made sure all the people stayed to the game, to the end of the game, to make sure they earned all the money out of that game. Well, Coach, what we're going to do, we're going to break down the game. We're going to break down the game real quick, and we'll start off with your captains. Your captains were David Wright, Cam Avery, Amani Harris, and Caleb Pierce. Now, Coach, before we get into the game, what goes into picking the captains? Why were these young men your captains, Coach?
Well, they're the leader at their positions. I think that, you know, of course, David Wright being the quarterback, he's the speaker of the bunch. Caleb Pierce being the linebacker, he's the speaker of that bunch. And number three, Amon Harris is the wide receiver bunch. He speaks to those guys there. And Cam Ivey is the guy who is the future. He was the guy at Clark Atlanta University. I think he's our whole. He's the nickel. He plays nickel now. His role has been reduced a little bit than it was last year, especially in this defense. But he's still a voice. He's the vocal. They follow him. He is the guy.
All right. There's your captains. Well, let's break down the game. Clark Atlanta got the ball first, 6 plays, and then on 4th down, the gambler, Teddy Keaton, goes for it on 4th down, and this time he comes up a little bit short. What happened on that 4th down play, Coach?
I mean, I thought it was a yard and some change to get. I mean, you want, at some point in time, you want to drop you and say, hey, can we get a yard and a half? Can our O-line bow their backs up and move? And I think they had a blitz going on. They had a blitz in the A-gap. They picked the big guy from Florida State that they got on that team, and they put him in there, and he clogged the hole up. We didn't get no movement, and the play was stopped dead. I mean, I thought we could continue that drive. I thought it would have been a big momentum if we could have got another first down out of that drive.
Yep. Could have been. But Allen, 2 plays later, Des Mukes completes a touchdown pass to Cummins, and the extra point fails. Score 6-0, Allen on top. Now, Clark gets the ball one more time, 4 plays. This time they fumble. Anderson had a fumble on the drive, and they give it right back to Allen. Now, 1st and 10 at the Clark Atlanta 36. And the defense holds strong. Forces a punt. Allen will get the ball back one more time, and it's 1st and 10 at the 3-yard line, Coach. 1st and 10 at your 3-yard line. You drove all the way down the field, but you stalled at the 28-yard line, and you brought on a young freshman, Leonardo Caba. 46-yard field goal, Coach. 46-yard field goal to get Clark on the scoreboard. Score 3-6, Allen on top. Defense comes back one more time, Coach. 3 and out, forces a 3 and out with Allen. Now, Allen has the ball Clark Atlanta has the ball 5 plays, picks up 23 yards on the first pass from scrimmage, and then stalled out from there. And Leonardo Caba, one more time, this time for 36 yards out, score 6-6. Allen has it one more time, 8 plays, and the defense forces another punt. That's 3 possessions in a row from your defense, Coach. What's Coach Cole doing over there to have that defense forcing punts?
Again, we were facing an opponent that we didn't know much about. You're talking about a whole new coaching staff. We knew a lot of the players that were still there and some of the new guys that they had brought in. You can see that by the 2 deep depth chart. but you never know how to adjust the formation. So after that first series, Coach Cole went over, drew some things up on the board, saw some of the formation that they wanted to live in, and we were able to make some checks, and I think it kind of worked out for us, and he was slowing them down, and he was able to get them to get 3 and outs.
There you go. Now after that 3 and out, the second quarter began. Now Clark Atlanta had an 8-play drive this time, and this drive ended in a David Wright interception. I think it got away from him. Coach, what happened?
I don't think it got away. I think the receivers. See, sometimes everybody wants to blame the quarterback for an interception, but the receivers, if he crossed the face of the safety, he would have just reached out. He could have made a play on the ball, but instead he alligator armed it. That's what we call it. He alligator armed it, and it went straight past him, and it went straight to the safety, who is a tremendous football player. Number 3 is a really good football player for Allen University. I think he's one of the transfers that they brought in. He's probably one of the best free safeties I've seen in this league in over probably 5 or 6 years.
Tyshawn Freeman, I think that's his name. Young man had 2 interceptions on the game, but we'll talk about that later. That receiver, Coach, we like to say he made a business decision.
I believe you. He made a business decision.
He made a business decision. All right, now Allen had it for 11 plays, but this time the defense held strong. On 4th and 1 at the 35, the defense stopped Bo Harrington, and now they turned it back over on downs. Clark Atlanta had it. This time they had a 10-play drive, and they made it all the way to the 11-yard line, and you had to bring that guy out one more time. Leonardo Caba kicks a 29-yard field goal. Now the score, Clark 9, Allen 6. Clark kicks off to Allen, and they fumble the kickoff, Coach. They fumble the kickoff, and Clark recovers, and there's 1st and 10 at the 30-yard line, 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. The drive stalls one more time, Coach. 4th and goal, you bring out Leonardo one more time, and Leonardo kicks a 30-yard field goal, scored 12-6 going into the halftime. You have this guy, Leonardo, freshman, kicks 4 field goals in the first half. First one was for 46 yards. Coach, who is this kid, and where is he from?
Well, we signed. He's a freshman. He's out of Forest Park, Georgia. He played at Forest Park High School. He came. We worked him out. He came on a visit. We went and saw him. Somebody said I told him we was looking for a kicker, and they said, well, there's one at Forest Park that nobody's recruiting really. So we brought him outside, and they was working on our field a little bit. So we took him over to Booker T. That's right across the street, and we put him out there, and we just let him kick. And first thing you notice, his kickoff is very powerful. His leg was powerful. Then we started working on PATs, and he hit those. Then he put him back and back and back, and we found out he could hit field goals. I said, this is our guy for the last 3-4 years. I hadn't seen no parts of a kicker, and they cost me some games. So I said, for sure, one thing we're going to have on this roster is a kicker.
Sounds like you found one. It looks like you found one. All right, we'll start the second half. Allen starts out with another 3 and out. The defense is looking good. Now, Clark Atlanta will get it. 1st and 10 at the 43-yard line. 12-play drive capped off with a 1-yard run by David Wright, getting there, putting it in the end zone, and the extra point is good. Now the score, 19-6, Clark on top of Atlanta. Now, Allen answers. It was a quick drive, 4-play, 66-yard drive, and Des Mukes had a 11-yard TD run. But, Coach, here's the thing. On that drive, it was 2 personal foul penalties. That's 30 yards on personal fouls, Coach. What's going on with the aggressiveness of the defense?
I think it was emotions. I think a lot of emotions was being played high in that game. You got players, former teammates, guys that, their coaches had hyped them up to play. I had talked about this last week. We didn't want to be an emotional game, and I think they always catch the second guy. So the first thing would happen, the second guy responded, and they called us a couple times on some different things, and hey, it is what it is, but I told them we got to stop that because if you go back to the Fort Valley game, we had the same thing that happened. A lot of their drives were kept alive because of a penalty. If you go back and look at first downs because of penalties, you look at, they really wasn't getting any first downs. We were helping them get first downs and keeping the drives to go a long way.
Sounds about right. Now, Clark Atlanta will have it back, and this time it's a 3-play drive that ends with a David Wright interception. But it was a pick 6. Freeman took it all the way back to the house, but this time the referee is your friend. The referee is your friend. It was a holding call, so they took back the touchdown, and it was 1st and 10 on Allen's 25-yard line. Defense holds. That's the story of the game so far, field goal kicking and the defense holding, and Allen blew the field goal.
Big play.
Big
moment. That's how you – I think that's what we want. That's championship football right there. When the defense can go out after the mistake has been made and put in R-plus territory to be able to get a touchdown and your defense hold for you. I thought Coach Cole made a lot of great adjustments from the first game to the second game, which it showed up on the field, and the guys played with a little bit more tenacity, a little bit more speed, a little bit more aggressiveness, which causes some of those penalties we got. But I knew that they were going to come back and respond because he challenged them early in the week about, standing up, doing your job, and doing the right things.
All right, now Clark will have it one more time. This time it's a 5-play drive, and it ends up in a punt. Now we have the start of the fourth quarter. Allen has it, 9 plays, 61 yards, and then Sam Herman kicks a 34-yard field goal. Score now 15-19, Clark on top of Allen. Clark Atlanta will have it, and their drive will stall after 4 plays, and then there's another punt, a punt away from Clark. And now Allen goes on a 10-play, 80-yard drive, and on that drive, it was a whole lot of Bo Harrington to the left, Bo Harrington to the right, and it was capped off with a 24-yard touchdown pass from Des Mukes to Lawrence. Score 22-19. We talked a little bit about Bo Harrington last week. I think he might have heard us, Coach.
He did. He broke our backs. Let me say this here. They had 2 back-to-back drives that you couldn't have drew it up no better than what they did it in. And I thought we had their number, and then they unleashed Bo. And then there go Bo, and Bo started doing what Bo do. Bo's been doing this for 2 or 3 years in this league. He did his thing, so my hat goes off to him. They were able to push to get in front of the league, and at that moment there, I thought, now here we got to get this ball back and we got to score.
There you go. Now, let's set the scene. 2 minutes, 35 seconds to go. Ball on the Clark 35-yard line. It's David Wright time. He's the man we all expected. Everybody wants him to be the player of the year, the potential All-American. Now we figure out is he worth the titles and the preseason honors that have been bestowed on him. Well, you got it started early with a 13-yard rush by Martin. Martin had a 13-yard rush to start off with. Then David Wright comes back, throws an incomplete pass, and then boom, 2 completions. Bam, bam. Next thing you know, in this final drive, David Wright goes 5 for 7, and he caps it off with a 7-yard touchdown pass to Amani Harris. Can you tell me about that drive? What were you thinking? What was going on? What was the play calling like for that drive?
It called a 2-minute drill. We worked the 2-minute drill every game, but I had told them when we got in the huddle, when we was getting ready to go for kickoff, I said, now we want to milk as much clock as we can milk. Take your time. We do this every day. It's just practice. Just work it down. If we got to get out of bounds, but try to work as much clock as we can. Run the ball, make some good runs in. And I think Coach Cunningham did a really, really good job of managing that time. I wish we could have took a few more seconds off the clock, but I think that drive ended. It was 43 seconds left for the game to be over with. I wish it was 25 seconds because, when you're standing on that sideline and knowing that their offense had put together 2 or 3 pretty good drives against our defense, and Bo had been, doing Bo, and Dispute was doing his thing, and Montrell White, was catching some big plays, and those guys were, really being who they are. And I really was kind of nervous. I'm not going to tell you. I was worried that we left 43 seconds. That's enough time for them to get it done with the playmakers that they have on that offense.
That was a lot of time left on the clock, that 43 seconds. But talking a little bit more about David Wright and what he did, from what I observed, you got to see him, and he looked really calm to me. He looked really calm on that last drive, and I think that's something that you want out of a leader. You want out of your quarterback to be a calming force in the game, especially on that last drive. And was it me, or did he look calm? Was he calm?
He was very calm. It's the maturity factor. David's grown a lot. I mean, he understands what to do, how to do it, and why it's important for him to do it that way. And every now and then he lets me come out, what I call his inner self come out, me come out of him. And I had to tell him all the time, put me away and think about the team. And sometimes that's where when we were in the red zone, I think sometimes me came out. He wants to throw the touchdown instead of, doing some other things. And I think that they had a great red zone defense. They pulled out an old defense, like an old 46, and they blitzed every hole. And they came off the edges, and they tried to have every gap covered, that if he throws it, he gonna have to get it out of his hand. And they played zero coverage behind it, and I thought they did a really good job. And we didn't have an answer for it. And that's my problem. That's my job, because if somebody else come back, we need to have some answers for that. So you best believe we'll practice that in practice this week. But I thought David handled it well. I think the coaching staff handled it well. And I think all the players, because we do this every day in 2-minute drill. We have a 1-minute drill, 2-minute drill, and a 4-minute drill, from behind and ahead.
Well, now we have the last drive of the game. Allen will have it 1st and 10 on the 25-yard line with 43 seconds to go. Mukes did a great job, I thought, of working the out routes and working the sideline. He completed 3 quick completions to the sideline that stopped the clock. And now he had it with 8 seconds to go in the game, ball around the 45-yard line, and he goes and tries to launch for one last launch to the end zone, and he's pulled down by the horse collar, Coach. Pulled down by the horse collar, 15-yard penalty, but Mukes is out the game, and they have to bring in his backup, Michael Reese. Michael Reese, you're familiar with this guy.
Yeah.
Reese comes in the game, and great job. Well, before that play, on the horse collar tackle, great job by the secondary for making sure no one was open downfield, and he didn't have anyone to throw it to. Right. And so it forced him to kind of scramble out of the pocket. But now, no time on the clock. Michael Reese in at quarterback, looking, and the defense stepped up big. This time the secondary shut it down. No one was open none of the receivers were open. He tried to scramble, came up about 5 yards short, Coach.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what we work on that drill. So, in a normal situation, DBs see the quarterback break the pocket and they lose sight of their receivers. So we work what we call a scramble drill, where they have the opportunity. They want to wait to see if he crosses that line. Now it's free game. We need to all retreat and come up. If you saw how safety came down and rocked him and made him fumble the football,
yes,
that's something we worked on. I mean, you could tell that Allen had worked on their 2-minute drill. They worked the sidelines. They got the ball out because they had used all their timeouts. So they only had one they could get was, we still had 3 going into the thing, but I called one at the kickoff so we could be sure not to kick the ball to number 17, which is Moon. And Moon's the fastest guy. He probably runs a 10-200. So we wanted to make sure he didn't get the ball, and he's strong as an ox. So you're not going to just bring him down. So we had kind of strategized along the way to make sure that all this kind of worked out. So we wanted to kick it to the right guy. We wanted to work it down. We wanted to make sure we didn't capitalize on we didn't want to get the horse collar, the penalty again that would give them an automatic first down. But we knew they had no timeouts. And Michael did this against Clark Atlanta when we were playing. When David got hurt, Mike's a guy that I thought the DBs did a really good job of covering up their guys again and making sure that there was nobody he could throw the ball to. Then Mike takes off running. The only thing that he didn't do is ball security drill. He had the ball out like he was Michael Vick, and when he got popped, it fumbled out. I was mad as a coach that he didn't tuck that ball away and at least try to use his 210-pound frame to try to Beauregard in. But I was so proud of my DBs to make that stand at that time. So my hat goes off to Allen University and the work that they came there. I told you on the last show that they had a lot of players there, a lot of good players, and they showed up and played football. And I think somebody on the Twitter page had said it needed to be live streamed because every time a guy, former coach against another former, those games are epic. And guess what? Games. It was one for the days there.
Epic games, man. I can think back to the couple of years. I know when Clark played Tuskegee last year, that was a great game. When Miles played Tuskegee, that was a great game 2 years ago. So, hey, anytime that former coach plays his former team, it's always a good game. Well, let's go over some team statistics. seeing the improvements that we made. Clark Atlanta led in first downs, 27-25. Rushing, Clark Atlanta led 170 yards rushing. So definitely beat last week's rushing total, Coach. Passing, also Clark Atlanta 276 yards passing. Here's the big one right here, Coach. Penalties. 11 penalties for 152 yards. It went down. It went down, Coach. I mean, if we're looking for a positive, it did go down from last week, Coach.
Well, how can you tell your kids not to be aggressive? How can you tell your kids not to be here? But, you know, the penalty thing is one of those things that we just got to keep cleaning up. But I thought the kids played really hard, so you know, we'll address it, but I ain't going to spend too much time on it, you know, because most of the penalties we got were mostly roughed up penalties. There's a couple times that we hit the DB across the middle of the field. I mean, the wide receivers across the middle of the field, I thought that was a little, ooh.
Yeah, a little close, some close calls, some close ones, kind of head scratchers, you know, you might say. But, hey, the refs get paid to ref.
That's right, and we get paid to coach, and we wanted our kids to be aggressive, and we want them to hit them, and keep hitting them. And you know, I think in this game, today's game, the aggressiveness of football has been taken away, and we want to play with a different type of speed, a different type of tenacity, and we want to be able to, you know, come through and stroke people. Let them know we've been there now.
There you go. There you go. Couple of individual stats. We'll start off with David Wright. He was 20 for 45. 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. But also David Rice put his feet down a little bit today, a little bit on Saturday. 9 rushes for 55 yards and a touchdown. David showing that he can move. He can move. And here's another important fact for you. Offensive line gave up 1 sack, Coach. 1 sack.
Every week I'm getting so impressed with Coach Sutton and what he's doing with those guys up there. I mean, when I look back at the tape and we was watching how they ran the ball, when we ran power, when we ran the different plays, our lineman was paying defense. When they tried to, you know how you spill technique, they was log blocking, and I just got to get my running back to know now when it's a spill or a box technique, did we kick him out or did we box him? So now that they'll learn how to get on around the edge.
All right. Also, leading rusher for the game, Trayvon Pender. Pender had 17 attempts for a net of 59 yards. Elijah Crockett, 8 attempts for 38 yards. On the receiving side for the Panthers, Amani Harris, leading receiver, 6 receptions, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Jamal Jones, 5 receptions, 74 yards. Ronnie West, 4 receptions, 54 yards. And Delon Tolliver, 3 receptions, 29 yards. Those are your leading offensive players. Now, on the defensive side, we do not have the defensive stats. But we will talk about the defense since we're here. We'll talk about our defensive player of the game. Our defensive player of the game, a freshman, Coach, Jaden Cleveland, defensive lineman. He had 7 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks. And he had a big sack for almost a 9-yard loss on one of those drives in the third quarter that kind of put a kibosh to an Allen drive. Tell me a little bit about Jaden Cleveland.
Jaden's a freshman from Montgomery, Alabama, played at Park Crossing High School. He was a guy that walked onto the team. But from the first days of training camp, his work ethic, he was always the first. Him and Trayvon Pender were the first 2 kids in the building every day during training camp. And they worked so hard that they stood out to you. You knew they were there. They worked in the weight room. They worked with their running. They worked when it came to getting the playbook and doing what they do. And every day I saw Kate, when I saw him in one-on-one drills, he was dominating what is an all-conference center in Sharif. He was whooping him in a lot of areas. And I was like, Sharif, did you just do nothing all summer? And then I just wait till the scrimmages came along, and he was showing up every time, just showing up, beating double teams, defeating blocks, doing a lot of things. So at the end of the camp, we always have what we call a rookie show. And after we finished the rookie show, I couldn't let a guy like that had walked onto my team and arguably was one of the best D linemen in camp, all camp, showed up every day, and I had to give him a scholarship, so we offered him a scholarship during camp.
Sounds good. Sounds good. That's Jaden Cleveland. Jaden Cleveland, your defensive player of the game. Now, offensive player of the game, Coach, I don't think it was any question. It's the youngster, Leonardo Caba out of Forest Park High School. This young man, he had 4 field goals, 4 for 4 from downtown, a 46-yarder, a 36-yarder, 29-yarder, and a 30-yarder. The youngster from Forest Park, Leonardo Caba, your offensive player of the game. Big game for Leonardo.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, he scored the points. And like I said, in the past, in the years, I didn't have a kicker. So it was so blessed to be able to say, hey, send a field goal unit out. Let's kick it. In other games, it would have been like, what play I got for 4th down? Because when you get in that green zone between the 40 and about the 35, that's an area where you got to make a decision. Am I going to keep the drive going or am I going to punt it? So now we didn't have a kicker. And a lot of times it really cost us some games, even when we scored touchdowns and we weren't able to do the 2-point conversion. Those points were adding up. You go back to the Fort Valley game, we left about, probably 8-9 points on the field because we couldn't make a extra point or kick a field goal. Yep. So, I think his first game, he kind of struggled a little bit. The lights were big, the stage was big. They played against one of the top blue blood programs of this conference, and he came back and responded the right way.
I think he did. I think he responded the right way. And now those were our offensive and defensive players of the game. If you want to sponsor that segment, reach out to me, Sly the Sports Guy, and we'll make sure we get your name on that plaque or on that trophy or whatever the youngsters get for being the offensive and defensive players of the game. Next week, Coach, it's a 1 p.m. kickoff. The Sunshine Showdown in Miami Gardens, Florida. You guys take on the 1-0 Florida Memorial Panthers, coming off a 31-21 victory over Edward Waters University. You get to go and see Coach Bobby Rome and his Lions. Coach, are you ready to go on down there?
I mean, we're working on that. It's Monday right now, and we started, unplugging and pulling down the film that we have. So we're starting to put a game. One thing's popped out to me. His offensive line is really good. They block well, and they got a running back, Wilbur. He really totes the ball really well. That's a guy I think they're going to kind of depend on, and we got to be able to stop the run, and we got to be able to go out and play CAU football. And I think that by the time we get there, we're leaving on Thursday. By the time we get there, we'll be ready, to rock and roll and do what we do.
Walter Wilborn, 170 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had the Al Bundy special. He scored 4 touchdowns in a game. He did that last week against Edward Waters University. So it'll be a nice trip down to Miami. All you Clark Atlanta fans, especially the Clark Atlanta fans living in Atlanta, you can go and take that 6 a.m. flight, 6 a.m. Frontier flight, and get down to Miami Gardens for under $100, I think. I think the flight's under $100. You get down there on Saturday and you can leave out on Sunday. So you can go and support your Clark Atlanta Panthers. Make sure you go down and support them. Well, Coach, it was a good win. Anytime you end up with a W is always a good win. And so I guess we'll count this one as a good win, Coach.
It's always a good win. Any win I can get, I'm always happy for. I'm proud of my young men. They faced every form of adversity that they could have faced in the first 2 games that they've played. We've used all facets of the special teams. We've had to pull out some trick plays. We had to fake a punt. So I think we've opened up our bag early. Now we just got a few things that I feel like we need to improve on going into this next game, that hopefully we could get into a point where we clean it up really well, that we could dominate heading into conference play.
All right, well, that'll do it. It's the Teddy Keaton Show here live on HBCU Game Day. He's Coach Teddy Keaton. I'm Sylvester Williams. They call me Sly the Sports Guy. We'll see you next week here live on HBCU Game Day. We want to thank everybody for helping us out with the show. D. Clark for providing all the visuals. Miles Jenkins for handling the production and being the man behind the scenes. I'm Sylvester Williams. We'll see you next week on the Teddy Keaton Show.